evening. Welcome to the Government News Brief for Thursday, May 18, 2017. In the news this evening, the government is working to upgrade the standards of the forensic laboratory, capital expenditure works in Region 2's health sector moving apace, and government to explore other options for a local oil refinery. These and other stories when the news returns. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. I am Renetta LaFleur. Here are the details. A team from the Civil Defense Commission was earlier today dispatched to the flood-affected communities of Kaibarupai, Sand Hill, Chinapau, and Waipa in Region 8, says Minister of State Joseph Harmon. The residents are also receiving support from the Guyana Defense Force, which has a presence in the community, assessing the situation to provide relief. Minister Harmon explains that it is important to note that some of these communities are in valleys, and therefore, when the rains come down heavily, the waters come down from the mountain and flood these villages. Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Principal Regional Development Officer Anil Roberts says that all relevant information has been forwarded to both Minister of Indigenous Peoples Affairs Sidney Alicock and Minister within the Ministry Valerie Garrido-Lowe. Steps are being made to bring the forensic laboratory to International Standards Organization accreditation. Find out more in this Isaiah Braffett report.
Obtaining IOS accreditation means that apart from having the necessary equipment in the laboratory, the proper infrastructure is critical. Project Manager for the Citizen Security Strengthening Project CSSP, Clement Henry, says that the air quality and electrical wiring are some of the infrastructure needed. Bringing the infrastructure of the laboratory up to standard, Henry says, is a priority for the year.
Apart from just procuring the equipment, we're moving to take the lab towards ISO accreditation. And the infrastructural works are important towards the ISO accreditation. So we believe that getting that right first, before we bring the equipment on board, is really the wise way to go.
However, Henry points out that the procurement process has already started for acquiring equipment.
We're doing this to ensure that, at the end of the procurement, we would have had all of the major stakeholders agreeing, all the views converging, so that at the end of it, we will have the best for the lab. There's one other infrastructural activity that must be a part in moving towards ISO accreditation. That is the security system. And as we speak, we are actually working on that document, for the procurement document to set up to ensure that we strengthen the security system of the lab.
Additionally, Henry adds that a forensic expert has been hired to help with the capacity building for staff members.
He's been contracted by the PU to assess not only the infrastructure in the laboratory but also to assess the gaps in terms of the protocols, laboratory protocols, and also in terms of the quality of our staff, and to suggest to us the areas of training.
According to Henry, advertisement has been made both overseas and locally to afford laboratory staff the necessary training. Advertisement was also made to acquire a firm that can do proficiency testing. Isaiah Braffett, Government News Brief.
Capital expenditure works in Region 2's health sector have commenced and are moving apace. More in this Delicia Haynes report.
The Regional Democratic Council RDC of Region 2, Pomeroon Supanam, has managed to have most of its capital expenditure infrastructural works underway. During a recent visit to the health facilities in the region, Minister within the Ministry of Public Health, Dr. Karen Cummins, recognized the successful commencement of most of the projects outlined in the 2017 budget. Others are pending commencement after going through the tender process.
Well, what I've seen that in terms of the efficiency and the effectiveness of delivering public health care to this region. First, in some cases, we have our complement of staff. I recall going to Charity, I think it was in January, there were just 3 doctors there. Now we have double, 6. So we were trying to improve in terms of our human resources. In terms of our capital works, we're working assiduously on that. I know some works are going to start next week. They're already being contracted out and so forth.
More specifically, upon visiting the Oscar Joseph District Hospital, the minister was pleased with some of the projects that have started, which will benefit patients.
We have the accident and emergency building that was started. It's not complete, just the outside completed. The inside we still have to put in all the equipment and the oxygen banks and so on. We had the washrooms for the wards completed, and we have the labor room that was that's halfway as well, because we have to put in the AC and the lights there.
Additionally, the hospital's mortuary underwent rehabilitation early in the year. All of the projects that have started are pending completion before year end. Other minor issues are set to be addressed with interventions from the Public Health Ministry.
There's some minor things, low-hanging fruits, as I said, like chairs and so on, that we can work very quickly to address. But all in all, I've seen improvement from some of the things I have met when I came in January. I've seen much improvement in terms of the infrastructure works here, and I'm happy for that.
$944 million has been approved for the Region 2 RDC to improve and upgrade health services. Riverine communities in the region are expected to benefit from medical supplies and additional human resources, while those along the coast will continually see interventions to provide better healthcare services. For the Government News Brief, Delicia Haynes.
The government has several alternative options to explore after a feasibility study finds it would be too expensive to establish a local oil refinery. Tiffany Rodias has the details.
Constructing an oil refinery could cost the government US $5 billion, says Pedro Haas. The petroleum expert was contracted to determine the feasibility of the government setting up an oil refinery.
The results that this analysis gives us are the following. The base case gives us a negative rate of return and a net present value of negative $3 billion. Now, that is a very significant number because if you remember, the total investment is $5 billion. That means that you're destroying over half the value of your investment the day you commission your refinery. It's a very significant value destruction impact.
Haas, the Director of Advisory Services at Hatchery Partners from the United States, last evening presented the findings of his feasibility study to the Minister of Natural Resources and the general public. Haas points out that even if the government were to invest in a small modular refinery, it would still be expensive. Haas attributes the high cost of construction to the fact that everything would have to be brought into Guyana to build a new refinery.
So you have to compete against a depreciated refinery with a new facility, and you have to compete against a very, very efficient set of refining capacity.
If the government decides not to build a refinery, there are other options, such as defensive trading, Haas says.
The second is converting Guyanese crude into oil products, and that can be done in various ways. Here we describe, the first one, which I just mentioned a minute ago, selling the crude and bringing in the products. But you could also do a swap of crude oil for products at a kind of predefined exchange rate. And the last one is not too dissimilar, which is a tolling arrangement or a processing deal, whereby you reach an agreement with a refinery, which is, responsibly and rationally and commercially run, and you agree to pay a certain fee per barrel, and you have a certain slate of products that you're going to obtain as a result of that processing.
The presentation was followed by a question and answer segment. Minister of Natural Resources, Raphael Trotman, says the presentation was to facilitate transparency in the emerging oil and gas sector. For the Government News Brief, Tiffany Rogers.
Minister of Communities urges Madia residents to remove their properties that are impeding road works. Details in this report. Minister Ronald Bulkan, on a recent outreach in the Region 8 community, told residents the initiative is a fulfillment of government's promise to reduce the inequalities between the conditions on the coastland and the hinterland. However, the project, which commenced since 2015, is delayed due to hindrances caused by residents' properties.
We are now approaching the midpoint of 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, as a result of the actions of several persons who have erections and encumbrances in the alignment of this roadway, this project, this initiative has now been compromised and it is in danger of being jeopardized.
Over $800 million was allotted in the 2016 national budget for works on Madia roads. The funds have been rolled over for completion of the project in 2017. The region's engineer, Wendell St. Pierre, says the project, which is divided into 3 lots, should have been completed a year ago.
Every contractor basically got 1 year, right from the date of commencement. So both technical and GR should have been finished by now, right? But still, their finish date is for August. Right, but irrespective of that, right, they could have been finished. But it's because of these encumbrances that still have not been solved, right, they are still being held up, especially for GR Ranch.
St. Pierre explains that Lot 1 is over 50% completed and Lot 2 is at 15%. Lot 3 recently started. The contractor is experiencing difficulties with the removal of lamp poles, St. Pierre says.
Recent issues was with BNJ, right? There were some poles directly within this alignment, right? I personally took one on, went to the residence with a representative from the chairman's office, with approval, along with Andy, the electrical man, right, for MPL, and we got approval for people to move out their fences for the poles to be moved. So that process right now is currently ongoing, right? I have seen the poles move, but the wires are still to be transferred to the poles to be moved.
Some of the residents share their concerns on how the project is being executed, which mostly surrounds the destruction of the local Gyle gas station's property. Proprietor of the gas station, Dheeraj Dhanraj, says many of the residents were not aware of the work before it commenced.
Citizens are sitting right along here. We are not properly informed. All what we know, fence breaking, road going, who know what to do, they say, who don't say, they stay.
Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Communities, Emil Magarel, says a committee will be set up to further address the issues concerning the execution of the project. He says this committee will allow residents to actively participate in the project. Camarang youths who graduated from the Board of Industrial Training were told to use their skills for personal and community development. Delon Sanko was there and filed this report.
50 persons from Camarang in Region 7, Kayuni Masaru, near the latest batch of the Ministry of Social Protection Board of Industrial Training BIT graduates. They are now certified in small engine mechanics and plumbing. Assistant Chief Occupational Safety and Health Officer within the Ministry of Social Protection, Lydia Green, who represented the Minister within the Ministry, Keith Scott, says that the government is keeping its promise to develop youth in outlying regions.
In fact, at page 39 of the manifesto, the following statement appears under the rubric of technical and vocational institutes. It reads, as I quote, implement a national program to build well-equipped and appropriately staffed technical and vocational institute in every region of Guyana, giving immediate attention to the needs of the regions. And those regions were Region 1, 7, 8, and 9. And where are we today? We are in Region? No, you don't know where region. Where are you? Region? Right.
She adds that the government has every intention to fulfill all its manifesto promises as it relates to technical and vocational education and education in general.
It is a significant landmark here in your lives. And you can imagine my pleasure as I join in this celebration with your parents, you graduates, teachers here this afternoon. Graduates, it is indeed a gratifying experience to talk with you today.
Thusha of Kako Village, K.C. Hastings, says that he is impressed having observed the participants during the training and their dedication to their studies.
You have accomplished something very great as you have got another opportunity in life to study and make a difference in your life. Many students have testified to me saying that this program has made a difference in their lives. And they were happy to have such an opportunity to study again. I would like to say thanks to the government for the initiative that the young people in this part of the country can have another chance in life. I want to charge you, therefore, to use this chance that you've been given and make a difference in your personal life and in the community life.
32 students completed training in small engine mechanic and 18 in plumbing. BIT has trained over 3,071 persons over the past 2 years. The graduates are now certified in areas such as engineering, trade skills, forestry, home economics, information technology, and office procedures. Delon Sanko for the Government News Brief.
We have come to the end of today's edition of the Government News Brief. The details of these and other stories can be found on GINA's website. GINA has an active Facebook page, and we encourage you to visit and like us so you can be informed as the news unfolds. Do join us tomorrow for another edition of the Government News Brief. I am Renetta LaFleur. Have a great evening.